Strong Dads wants to thank Quality Auto Mart for joining us as a sponsor. Quality Auto Mart was born in 1985. They are owned and operated by Mark and Nancy Repke. Quality Auto Mart provides all the services, repairs, and maintenance for your vehicle's needs with a 3-year auto parts and labor warranty. They offer complimentary vehicle safety inspection and estimates. Also, they offer a shuttle service and the 4th oil change is always on them. They are located at 7307 on State Road 46 in Batesville, Indiana. Make sure you give them a call at 812-934-2301.
Welcome to Strong Dads. This is Merle Hutchinson and Kyle Crawford bringing you another great show. I had a bigger dude in here than you. I had a real man in here.
A real man. It was awesome.
Did you check out the Dan McKim show?
Great show, yes. He's a funny dude.
He is a funny dude, man. He is. I mean, half the time I just had to laugh because his face speaks. You know, just the way his eyes light up and he smiles and laugh. He was funny.
He kind of took the show. I liked it.
No, he's good. So you guys, if you did not listen or watch last week's Strong Dad show, you got to go back. We had guest Dan McKim. He's a 5-time Highland Game world champion, 6-time national champion, a couple world records that he holds. And so, but more than that, you know, he's a dad and he's a husband and he's a follower of Christ. Yep. And he really tries to help. In his own world, he had to keep that all in perspective. Yeah. You know, like, okay, well, I'm on this pro circuit, but what does this mean? And he works the whole thing and just talked about how he processed that. So super, super great guy. Had a lot of fun. So you got to go check out last week's show. Good time.
I like it. Yeah. So as we move into today's show, we were discussing what we're going to talk about, and you were like, you got any ideas? And what came to mind is I think we should do a show on us dads and men as cussing, and what that looks like, right? And that was where my mind's at. And Merle's like, well, what do you think about doing a show on resurrection? It's going to be Good Friday when this show drops. I'm like, all right, I see we're on 2 completely different wavelengths here. Your mind is much more holy than mine. I agree. We should do a show on resurrection. So daggone it.
Well, I'd like to say that I'm all like holier than you, but really I was just feeling guilty. Like, okay, we just got done talking about the importance of having more Bible and understanding the Bible. And then we were talking about doing a show on cussing. I'm like, I'm not sure how I'm going to bring the Bible into that.
You're like, I don't know the direction we'll go with that. I'm like, I don't know. That's just on my mind.
And it is happened to be Holy Week, so I don't know. Maybe there's something else. Yeah. So anyway, that's funny.
Yeah. Well, anyways, it is Friday as the show drops. So for everyone out there, good Friday and happy Easter coming up here on Sunday.
Yeah. And so what we are going to talk about today, though, is really the deal breaker of Christianity versus all other faiths. And so part of our series that we did before was the idea of that, why Christianity, and then how to start to pursue that. And today we're actually going to kind of needle down to the one reason why Christianity is what we follow and what obviously has changed the world, and that is the resurrection. And so, many people don't give the resurrection much credence. They're just like, and he rose from the dead. But that's just way too dismissive of what that actually means. For and what it has meant. And so we're going to take a little bit of time to actually explore that. And if you find yourself, you've described yourself when you were a kid, you guys were kind of creasters, right? You went to church on Christmas and Easter. And I think John T. says mother creasters. Those are the people who bring in Mother's Day and Christmas and Easter. And so, there's a reason to be more than just a creaster. And it is largely because of that resurrection, but it takes a lot of study and understanding to really go, oh, wow, that's why this is a whole lot bigger than that. So anyway, that's kind of the deal. Yep. Let's get into it. I feel like you're farther away from me today. Are you like out in left field?
I feel like that.
I don't want you to get too close to me.
Let me scoot closer. But
you better scoot a little
your
closer.
Holiness here.
Otherwise, If there's such a thing as a bolt of lightning coming down and smacking us, it's going to happen right there.
Yes, there we go. I think we're good now. All right. Anyways, for Strong Dads, we would love to thank the Quality Automart for coming alongside of us. Thanks so much for them. All your automotive needs, check them out. Let them know we sent you up there. I really do appreciate them. They got that awesome parts and labor warranty. So check them out. Let them know we sent you up there.
All right. I also want to thank Casey's Outdoor Solutions. Thanks to Casey for coming alongside of Strong Dads. Man, we are definitely primed up for the spring season with planting and grass seed and all that stuff. So for all your landscape needs, go check out Casey's Outdoor Solutions, located outside of Lawrenceburg, Indiana. They will definitely help you out.
I like it.
All right. So, like I said a little bit ago, just to set some background up, we talked before about the importance of us really being a lot more part of Strong Dads is the idea that we challenge men, dads, to actually grasp and understand their role as a dad and as a husband, but not as their role as Kyle and I define it, because that would be dangerous. We would be talking about golf balls and working out and hunting and fishing, and that's not how we want to define fatherhood and husband, the husband relationship. Instead, we really want to talk about, well, what's the Bible say about it? Because that is our grounding foundation. And so that's where our conversation comes in today about why we are going to talk about the resurrection.
Yep.
Okay.
It's kind of I find it, similar to what you were saying at the beginning. It's just this idea of the importance and the significance of the resurrection when it comes to our walk and who Christ really, showed himself to be to us and kind of the foundation of our faith. And it's like, we've done shows on obviously Christmas and the importance of Christmas and obviously the birth of Christ. And I almost feel like, I don't know if it's just societal or if it's the actual Christian faith, we put so much more emphasis, or it seems to be more. It's obviously much more politicized, the Christmas season.
Right.
But man, just the significant value in what it, similar to what you were saying, just it really lays the groundwork for truly the fundamental of Christianity and why the faith of Christ looks different than every other religion out there, is this resurrection piece that is so vitally important. And so I think, as we celebrate Good Friday and we leading up into, Easter, we would be foolish to not speak of, the significant value, for sure that it plays in your life as a follower of Christ, but definitely, what it means for you raising kids and what it looks like as a strong dad, why we should be talking about the resurrection of Christ and what that significant value can play in our kids' life.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Christmas. So the idea of, Christmas, I think, really talks to our fleshly desire because it surrounds us with the idea of a gift. A gift was given, right? And so everything from the gift of Christ being given to us to the three, or not the three, but the wise men. We always say the three wise men, but the wise men giving gifts, And so, us as humans, we love gifts, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why I think commercially, Christmas has just really gotten a lot of traction and grown. But Easter's different. It doesn't give the gift, so to speak, from the flesh, but it gives the hope. It gives hope, the eternal hope. And it is hope that drives why I'm going to get up every single day and keep going. So the gift is kind of a fun thing. It's kind of a cool thing. But the birth of Christ is no different in terms of it just being a birth. Muhammad was birthed. Buddha was birthed. All people were born. But the idea that then somebody died and rose again for eternity, that is hope. So you're telling me there's something greater beyond what I have today. And so the resurrection is the hope part of the Christ story versus the birth is the gift part. Like, I'm giving you this, but it's going to give you this hope. So anyway, I think it's just important for us to understand. And sometimes I work with people with depression all the time. And one of the things that we have to try to figure out with depression is there any hope left in this guy? Like, where could he find hope again? And that's why we have so many, and we're going to get into this a little bit later, but why Christianity provides an opportunity, a window for hope better than anything else that is out there. Okay. And so anyway, the resurrection is a story of hope.
Yep. Well, let me ask you a question, Merle. So this idea again, as we jump into talking about the significant value the resurrection plays in our faith, why do you think that sometimes as believers and just sometimes as societal, why do you think we almost like push that idea of the resurrection to the side? Why do you think that we almost kind of just don't really give it the value that it deserves? What do you think? What do you think the kind of the background behind that is?
I'm just going to shoot from the hip with that, and that would be us humans are limited by our scientific reasoning, and the resurrection defies science.
Yeah.
And so now we step out into this sort of weird, miraculous magic. I don't know how this defies the laws of physics kind of thing. And so, this is where science doubles down, and it's actually science that has helped us understand, oh my gosh, I think there was a resurrection here. But if I just look at the resurrection on its surface and not look at the evidence of, I just go, yeah, well, I don't know about that. That really can't happen. And so I think for that reason, there's a lot of people, especially here in the last 100 years or so, where we were like, yeah, I think that was just something from a storybook. That resurrection, science can't prove that a resurrection could really occur like that.
Yeah.
So anyway, I guess I'm not sure, but I guess that's, our human mind wants to understand it on a scientific human level, and it defies that.
Yep. I think that's probably pretty good.
I don't know. That's my wild guess. All right.
I was thinking.
All right. So let's talk about the resurrection.
Yeah.
All right. Here's the first thing that I think that we should start to comprehend. Remember, we talked about before when we were trying to introduce the why of why should we have Christianity in our family and in our home. Why? Because it has impacted the world like nothing else has. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important to understand that Christ in his life would not be significant at all without the resurrection. If Christ were just another one of those great philosophers, okay, Socrates, Aristotle, Plato, if he was just one of those great philosophers, he would be just as, but not more than, famous as them, okay? And listen, actually, I know their names still, so they're still kind of famous, okay?
Right.
So we'll give them a little bit of credit there, right?
Right.
But their work has not been even close to the influence that the work of Christ has.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you have to kind of look at like, well, what is the jet fuel is on the Christ story that pulled this Christ story way out in front of these other great teachers? Like there's something way bigger than what they have.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I think you have to understand that the thing that has jet fueled, if I can use that, jet fueled the Christ story beyond them is the resurrection.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a huge part of this.
Yeah. And I think it's crazy. I mean, again, I know, I don't think there's anything wrong with this. And maybe if there is, you can put in the comments and tell me I'm ridiculous, or you can tell me Merle. But I think this idea of the resurrection and how the significance, like people have just gone all in the idea of they're going to defend this to the very end. And I think it is because of the resurrection. And this is something where for me, I'm just like, what makes Christianity so different than other religions, other faiths, right? And just it is this resurrection piece. And this is the, if you look through, all through Scripture and just historical documents showing that people are willing to die for this cause. That people are willing to put themselves to death because they at this point when the resurrection happened, that's when everything that Jesus had talked about in the New Testament, things that were spoken about in the Old Testament, they all kind of came. They came to be true.
Right.
And it was like at that point, I think that's when, if I put myself in that time, that's where it's like, that light bulb goes off, like, holy cow, this guy he was legit. He was the real thing, right? He said this was going to happen, and then it did.
Yeah.
And I think it was at that point, it's just like, that is what makes Christianity so much different, that he spoke things, and then it was put into existence by this resurrection. And if you look through, I know something I learned not too long ago, this idea that Peter was crucified upside down, that he didn't want to even be put in the same realm as this Jesus figure, right? That it was so significant that the crucifixion and then the resurrection, that he wanted nothing to do with being put in that same, on that same level playing field as Jesus. And I think when you look at things like that, that is where Christianity looks so much different than other faiths.
Just stop for a second. So the idea, like you said, let's go back a little bit to the whole idea of martyrdom. The idea that somebody would be a martyr for something like that. Okay. I don't know. I mean, maybe there is, I just haven't been taught or researched enough the number of people that might die for the work of Socrates, for Plato. No, I will die because of what this believes. So if you tell me it's not true, I will give my life to defend it.
Right.
But the idea then that now we have this whole concept of being a martyr. You might die for your daughters because of the depth of the love, but would you die for any other random kid in the neighborhood?
Stranger,
And so the idea that now we have person after person willing to die to do everything they can to defend this message. That's pretty crazy. And you have to think about it like that. Guys, give that some thought. Okay? When you have somebody who's got a knife to your throat, when we have Christians over in the Middle East, and they're basically being told you need to basically dismiss and deny your faith in Christ, and if you don't, we're cutting your head off, and they stick to it. It would be so easy to go, yeah, you know what? I think it was just something from a storybook. Really, never thought much about it to get out of the death. But people go, I'm sorry, this is one I will not deny. So you have to think about the magnitude of that. And so then, that was first brought to us by, of course, Christ, the great martyr who died for us, but then, like you said, Peter, crucified. Paul was beheaded. Okay. Andrew ended up crucified. So these are the apostles we're talking about. And we don't know the story on all those apostles, but we know that a lot of these guys ended up a martyr's death. Okay. Just the idea here is, again, this is the jet fuel, right? When you got this group of people who are going, I'll die to tell you that this was the truth because I saw it with my own eyes, and I'm not going to deny what I saw. And so from there, you've got this entire generation that is born that is willing to die for something outside of their own family. That's crazy.
That is
I'm not real big on that,
right. But I also think this idea. So and maybe this is just my narrow-mindedness, that it's okay, I don't think there's any way to deny the existence of who Jesus was. It has been written. There's many eyewitnesses that went and wrote about this Jesus guy really lived. He was actually a man. He came on this earth, right? And in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, there's this is where the quote unquote faith part comes in. There wasn't a whole lot of eyewitness for the resurrection. And then you start to dive into scripture and okay, Kyle, you're an idiot because this is not true. Yeah. There are lots of accounts. I mean, when we look at 1 Corinthians, which when I was looking at this, just kind of looking, 1 Corinthians 15, the title of that chapter is the resurrection, right? Yeah. And it's so cool because as you dive through this, it shows that Jesus was. I mean, there was eyewitness accounts of Jesus not being there. He was resurrected, and then all of a sudden, it even talks about how towards the end where he went and he was seen by thousands. Yeah. By 500. Yeah. And it's just crazy to in my mind, my narrow-minded, to think that not a lot of people actually saw this guy after he resurrection, and that's just simply not true.
Right. Well, let me read it because I think there's some different points here that make you and I go, okay, credibility. For I hand it on to you as of first importance what I turn and had received, that Christ died for our sins in accordance with the Scriptures, and that he was buried, and that he was raised on the third day in accordance with the Scriptures, and that he appeared to Cephas, then to the 12. Okay, so he met with them in the upper room. Okay, and you remember Thomas is like, I don't believe this until, okay, Thomas, well, put your hands right here. Okay. And let's see, in 12, and then 500 brothers and sisters at one time, most of whom are still alive, though some have died. Then he appeared to James, then to all the apostles. Last of all, as to one untimely born, he appeared also to me, and that's to Paul. Okay, and so the idea here, guys, this is after the supposed death that we have all of these witnesses, and you think about like that was jet fuel. Each one of them. I think it's important to also note that Jesus wasn't crucified in private.
Yep.
If he were crucified in private, it would be harder to even buy this story. Like, well, are you sure he was even put to death? But the idea that it was a public display of his death, there were, I don't know, hundreds, maybe thousands of witnesses to that.
Yeah.
So you had a lot of witnesses to the death, and now you have a lot of witnesses to the resurrection.
Yeah.
So,
well, Merle, just real briefly, this is something that I learned a while ago, and I thought it was really cool. So obviously it's Good Friday. So when we talk about the actual crucifixion of Jesus, and again, maybe some of you don't know this, and not insulting anybody's intelligence. So the idea of crucifixion was basically a sentence that someone was put to death. This was a common thing that happened. At the time when Jesus was crucified, there was two other people on either side of him that were also crucified. So it was a very common thing. And the Romans were not the inventors of crucifixion. They just perfected it. Right. They just found out
they loved the torture part.
The torture part. And this is something that I learned a while ago. Did you know that the word excruciating actually that word was to be like a crucifixion?
Yeah.
So when we use that word excruciating, I have an excruciating headache. Like that is in reference to being like a crucifixion. I thought that was really cool. Just the idea that's like our when it talks about painful, like excruciating pain, like that is the word we use. And the idea behind it, that excruciating pain that Jesus went through on the cross before that, being beaten and spit upon, I think it all plays a part, and we kind of almost have to talk about that because, again, talking about the idea of dying for a cause, right? Jesus not only was it wasn't just put a gun to his head and said, do this for everyone in humanity, right? He went through a gruesome death, again, very age dependent. But if you have not watched the from Mel Gibson,
Passion of
Christ, man, I think it in my eyes it is the best depiction of what it would have been like.
It's brutal.
It's brutal. It is brutal. But I think, man, you have to see that and like to be able to really grasp and kind of get the gravity of the situation and what all Jesus was put through. I think it all plays a part into the resurrection.
Yeah. So the crucifying of somebody was done and it was done publicly, as not just to. The pain was for the person to experience it, but the actual lesson was for all of the crucifixions were not done in private, period. Okay. They were done so that the government could say, you see what we're doing to him?
Yeah.
If you keep doing what he's doing, you're going to get the same thing. And so I've said many times, I'm not afraid of death. I'm afraid of the process of dying. Okay, like if I just woke up tomorrow dead, well, okay, you know what I mean.
Yeah, you wouldn't have woke
up. In other
up
words, yeah. So if I went through a peaceful transition, I'd be like, oh, I'm not afraid to die.
Yeah.
But the process of dying, like when I go to a nursing home and I see these people and just their pain or the dementia, like it's the painful part, the process of dying that really scares the heck out of us. And I don't care who you are. I'm not afraid of dying. Are you okay to get ready to go through 3 years, 5 years, 10 years of brutal pain? Are you good with that? And so the crucifixion is so important because of the lesson it was supposed to teach.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, that's where the excruciating pain comes from. But which gives us more credence to the idea of the message of Christ was so powerful that the Romans and the Jews who participated in this were basically saying, if any of you mess with this, if any of you think that you're going to spread this, you're going to get the same business. And so for people to know that they're going to get the same business, the same crucifying, the same torture that he gets and still go into it, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, it's just think about that. Like, no, I'm just going to avoid that one. So, yeah, I think it's a great point that you bring up, just the total brutality of the crucifying.
Yep.
So, all right. So we talk about the idea of how people are then willing to die for it because they see it with their own eyes and the importance of the lesson. I also think it's important to understand how the resurrection was prophesied multiple times, Old Testament and New Testament. But you have to remember that just because it was prophesied doesn't mean that people got it. Okay? Like when Jesus would make comments, I'll go through here, like, let's see, let me pull something up here. One of the references in the New Testament, look at what he said after he was carried from the temple in John 2, okay? Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up. The Jews then said, it took 46 years to build this temple, and you will raise it up in 3 days? And then there's a follow-up. But he wasn't speaking of the temple, but he was speaking of the temple of his body. Now, when somebody heard that he was going to raise this temple up in 3 days, back in those days, they didn't go, I think this is a story about Jesus resurrecting from the dead. Like, but now we get the blessing of hindsight to go, oh my gosh, like this is a foretold story. And so I think it's important that we really understand that all along Jesus knew exactly what was going to be happening. And he was predicting it so that we could then go, oh, he was carrying a message the entire time, and we just were not able to pick it up. Yeah. Think about what people would have said if he said, hey, guys, you need to know, here's exactly what's going to happen. I'm going to get crucified, and I'm going to die, and then I'm going to rise again, and just said it in plain language. People would have just been like, what? Right. What are you drinking? Too much wine, Jesus. You're get him away from it.
Yeah, so let's talk about why is the resurrection so important? Why are we spending a whole show talking about the significant value? Why is it so important? And man, I think at the end of the day, if Jesus didn't rise from the dead, if he wasn't crucified and then 3 days later he rose from the dead, I honestly do believe that the Christian faith could be looked at as a hoax. That it was just this good guy that came on this earth. He lived this life, and then that's it, right? And he told us the way that we should live, and then that's it. Like there's no actual substance behind it, right? But it was the resurrection that solidified the significance and really just it's the traction behind why we continue to talk about this Christian faith and why we see the significant value that it can play in your life. It's why every June, my small group, we do a 90-day, we read the entire Bible in 90 days. It is because of the significance that the resurrection plays in our faith, and to just dismiss that because it actually happened, and again, right, like we're talking about, there's eyewitness accounts. I think it really gives the Christian faith or the following of Christ, it really gives it value, and actually it's something tangible that you can actually hold on to.
Yeah. So the idea then is J. Warner Wallace. Or am I saying that wrong? Jay Wallace. No, it's J. Warner Wallace is the creator of Cold Case Christianity. Okay. And he was a detective in his day job and very good at it. I mean, basically trying to do research, investigations to break cases. And he was an atheist. Okay. And it was his wife who was a Christian, and it's kind of like a Lee Strobel kind of thing, like, oh, well, I don't know about all this stuff. And they went on the mission of actually, he took on the job of, I'm going to have to try to prove this. And so he goes on and he proves it. And so you can go look at his stuff. You can read his book, Cold Case Christianity. He actually has a podcast.
Okay.
But some really interesting things about now, like, okay, so why is the resurrection so important? he, along with many others, have pointed out, like, you really now need to understand the impact of what the resurrection has done in terms of how it has impacted your life today, whether you're a believer or you're not, what the resurrection has done to impact your life that you're in today. I mean, first and foremost, like, you live in the greatest country that's ever been formulated, better than the Egyptians, better than the Romans. Those were considered the empires, and then, you had all kinds of great civilizations, none better than what the United States has been created upon. And first and foremost, it is freedom. Freedom. And the concept of freedom really is something that comes from the resurrection of Christ. So you have freedom in Christ, and you have freedom to be able to live as you were designed by God to live, with your God-created gifts, your God-given rights and talents, okay? And so the whole idea that in this country, any level of freedom that you experience came from this resurrection, okay?
Yeah.
So I think that's a very important thing. Education. So, the Great Commission, at the Great Commission, Christ comes out and he says, okay, now go and make disciples, all right? Go spread the word. Now your job is to go baptize and spread this word. And so the idea here is now we started evangelism. And we know that the way to evangelism is to be doing kind of what you and I are trying to do right now, to educate, to teach, okay? And so think about education. All of your college system that we have globally, all of your schooling system started under the jet fuel of Christianity. That's why you have all of these ministries, and the first thing they do is they start off with creating schools. We have to take care of a basic education need, right? And so whether it's Notre Dame, whether it's St. Joe's down the street, right? Like, all of this education comes from this Christian base, okay, which is so huge. How about health? The idea that Christ wanted to take care of the physical need. Like, we are called to deny the pleasures or to not submit to all of the fleshly desires, but we have to take care of the body because the body is the temple. And so Christ took care and healed the body all the time, right? And so if you just in our Cincinnati area, your premier medical facilities happen to have a saint in front of many of them. St. Elizabeth, St. Luke's, Good Samaritan Hospital, right? All of these different saints. Where did that come from? The idea of the charitable taking care of the body, the health, comes from the idea of Christ.
Man, okay. You're teaching me here. Keep this going. This
well,
is good.
I mean, like, that's how I'm trying to say, like, this is the finger, the spider web, all from the resurrection. Because remember, you take the resurrection away, like, he gives you no more hope than Buddha. He gives you nothing more than Buddha. And I'm not saying that Buddha was bad or anything. I'm just saying, like, Buddha was just a teacher.
Right.
But Buddha, it was a gift, but he didn't give hope. Right? And so Christ gives hope. Think about all the charities that we have, all right, and all the mission groups. You're going on a mission trip. Is it in August?
No, November.
November.
Yep.
All right, and explain a little bit about what you're doing.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool. I've always said I have 3 priorities in my life, and it's faith, fire, and family. And
you're weird.
This trip is allowing me to incorporate my faith and the fire service, and so I'm going to Africa to teach Africans how to be firemen. And there's definitely a faith component that's a part of it. But yeah, the main mission is going down to Africa. We're going to Kenya, and we're going to be teaching these African firemen how to be better firemen. So it's a really cool little trip. It's a 12-day trip, and then there's a 3-day safari afterwards. So I'm kind of excited about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's 12 days of just teaching and learning from them. Something that I have really picked up on in the teaching world as I go out and I teach, and train other firemen, is how much I actually pick up on and I actually learn. So there's definitely going to be some learning from them. So I'm pretty excited about it.
Now think about that. Okay. So if somebody just got the idea that they said, hey, we're firemen, let's go over and teach other dudes about how to put out fires. That's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But I can guarantee you that it has very little energy behind it.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden you throw in the passion of, no, this is a ministry. Let's do it to serve other people like Christ did.
Mm.
Now it turns into something that has jet fuel on it.
Mm.
All right. And so that starts to separate good ideas, from great initiatives. Like, why, could you just start an education system just on the idea that we're going to just teach people to be smart? Yeah. But if people don't have a passion to keep it going, and the passion comes from the hope, and that comes from Christ. And so that's why you see the lasting impact when you associate things. Oh, I'm going to do this out of my faith to follow Christ. And that's why you see this great power. Like, I even get a kick out of the idea of how many people in the last 100 years, especially in the academic world, have tried to separate science from religion and from Jesus. And, it was Christianity that brought science out. All right. It was the idea, like, your original scientists, Isaac Newton and the gang, these guys were Christians, and they were just trying to explore God's created world. They weren't trying to, like, say,
disprove it.
Yeah, they weren't disproving. They were like, this is a learning thing. How can we learn more about God's world, how his nature is? And so the idea that we have science comes, and the Catholic Church itself was very instrumental in saying, how can we learn more about this creation of God? So science comes from, and Christianity has no fear of science. Right. There's no fear at all. Science has fear of Christianity because it feels like it's trying to basically prove Christianity wrong. If it just went to try to disprove what was created, its whole mission would be different. Okay. How about art? All of the great art that the original art that people really were inspired by is something that comes. The greatest canvases were the cathedrals. Like, if you were a great artist, you were going to come to a public place where it could be viewed. You didn't do a beautiful picture and put it in a cave somewhere, all right? You did this thing, but then you attributed to God. And so that's why, in the Sistine Chapel and Michelangelo, you have these things that are projected up in glory to God, all right? And so art, how about our calendar? Our calendar, the calendar that we have operated on for these 2,000 years and now globally, is all based off of BC, right? Before Christ and after Christ. So I don't know. Like, it's just crazy. Like, all of this has jet fuel, not from the birth of Christ, but from the resurrection of Christ.
So good. Yeah. I mean, man, just kind of just eye-opening for me. I'm for sure. I hope it is for you guys, just to really evaluate and to look at the resurrection and the significance that it plays. As we kind of, get ready to close this show out, I think what a great time to sit down and talk to your kids. And it's crazy because we actually, our church actually reached out to us and wanted to know if our girls would do a short video on what Easter Sunday means and the kind of the meaning behind, Good Friday and then leading up to Easter Sunday. And man, it was so cool just to listen to Ava share that story. And it's crazy to know that, man, she picks up on so many things, whether it be from church, whether it be from Jenny and I, whether it be just from, my brother and sister that we get to hang out a lot with. Just the idea that, man, our kids are listening, and we would be so foolish to not share the story of Good Friday and resurrection with our kids, because of how important it is for our life, for our kids' life, for the generations to come. Just like you were talking about, just so much stuff has been jet fueled from the resurrection. Man, this has to be a conversation we're having with our kids. Yes, the Easter egg, that those are going to be fun for our kids, but man, we can't miss the point of what Easter Sunday really means for us as believers. And just ask your kids, because it was eye-opening to me to realize how much my girls have picked up on and how much they actually know, whether it be just names from the story and who was all involved in it. And I just think it's such a cool time for us to really take a step back and reflect on just how awesome this holiday is for us in our walk.
Yeah. You're telling your story about your little girls. Your girls are so much better than I was and am. So my mom always shared a story. She thought this was so cute and so funny, but she was ready to kill me. It was Easter morning. I was probably, I don't know, 3, 4, maybe 16. I don't know. But
It was last year.
I was a little guy, and it was Easter morning. And she tells a story about we came out, we got our Easter baskets, and it was, I've always been a sweet tooth, and this verifies that from a very young age I was a sweet tooth. There were chocolate eggs and bunnies and stuff that were in there. And so she's like, okay, well, you need to put that stuff away because we're going to get ready. We're going to go to church. And so we even had pictures, remember like back in those days, dressed up with a little suit coat, and we had 5 kids, so here we are, we're all dressed up, right? Well, we're in church. And here and I kept wanting to take candy, and my mom's like, no, when we get home from church, you can have that. So here we are, we're in church. I'm in the pew. And my mom, I'm sitting in the back behind her, and she hears me wrestling around back there, and she looks back, and here I had packed my pockets. I had undone all the foil off of the chocolate, and I just stuffed.
Did it melt?
It all melted.
Yes.
And so I had chocolate all over my face, all over my hands.
I hope you were 16. I hope you were 16.
Just dropped. Yeah. And so anyway, it was so funny. She shares that story how I was covered in chocolate, all because, that my big takeaway from Easter was the chocolate bunnies.
Yep.
All right, you guys, as you put your equipment back together over here, you're good.
Breaking things.
Yeah, and you're getting ready to fall again. You'll be good.
I'll just hold it.
You guys have a great Easter, okay?
Yeah.
Think about it, like Kyle said. Talk to your kids about it. The resurrection is the jet fuel for why we do what we do, okay? Everything else is awesome and great. The birth, the teachings are awesome and great, but it is only through the resurrection that those things have the fuel to fly. And so take some time to learn about that, have some conversation. You sign us out with your mic falling all over the place. Now I got more construction work I got to do.
I know. Yep. So thanks so much for Quality Auto Mart and for Casey's Outdoor Solution for coming alongside of us. Really hope you guys are out there having a good week. Enjoy Good Friday. Enjoy the time with family, hopefully. And talk to your kiddos about this because it is so significant. So go out there and meet some strong dads.
Casey's is a premier garden center and gift shop located in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Casey's offers a wide selection of plants, landscaping materials, home and garden decor, and gifts for every occasion. Casey's is committed to providing exceptional service, a unique shopping experience, and value to every customer. Stop in and see what makes Casey's so unique. Located at 21481 State Line Road, Lawrenceburg, Indiana, or call 812-537-3800. Let Casey's help you add beauty to your home.